Hey Fight fans, Cage Minds here to do our UFC on Fox 2 predictions. There is 11 fights on this card. We'll get right to it. The first fight, Camozzi, 15-5, taking on Dustin Jacoby, who's 6-1. Camozzi, known from The Ultimate Fighter, obviously, as I announced the records, he's the more experienced of the two fighters. His opponent, Dustin Jacoby, is only making his second trip into the octagon. The first time, it seemed like he was paralyzed by fear, taken out of his game by the bright lights. So from what we've seen of him, from Jacoby going on now to Camozzi, Camozzi has the more technical striking game, uses more weapons out of that striking game, has a more overall well-rounded submission game, is very expert with the clinch, with his Muay Thai clinch, and I think even better up against the cage. Dustin Jacoby has a chance to win this fight. It's with his heavy hands. 5 of his 6 victories are from TKOs. If he's able to land the shot, he could win the fight. Camozzi has a very good chin, though, has not been stopped due to strikes in his mixed martial arts career. I'm leaning towards saying that I think the submission experience that Camozzi has is the biggest advantage he has in this fight, and I think Camozzi gets Jacoby down to the ground, finishes this fight. In the second round, I'm going to go either a Kimura or a key lock, but I'm looking for the submission victory from Camozzi. We'll move on to the next fight. It's a heavyweight battle. Joey, the Mexicutioner Beltran, who's 13-6, taking on Big Lavar Johnson, who's 15-5. Beltran is a staple of toughness in the UFC heavyweight division. Lavar Johnson is the first of the Strikeforce heavyweights making his way over to the UFC. Joey Beltran has tremendous knockout power. 11 of 13 victories with the TKO. Lavar Johnson, 13 of 15 victories with the TKO. Beltran, though, has showed improved ability to put together combinations, push forward, use the clinch, and the dirty boxing up against the cage. Lavar Johnson, we've seen push against the cage, taken down in his last couple fights. He has that knockout power, good Muay Thai, a nice reach, but I still have some questions outside of the striking about his overall game. From my opinion, there's just more work put in by Joey Beltran to improve in the other aspects, and I think Joey Beltran will finish this fight off in the second round with strikes. It's his big heart, his granite chin, his heavy hands, the weight ability, and putting pressure on. I think we'll see a second round TKO stoppage by Joey Beltran. Next fight we're going to, Michael the Menace Johnson, 16-10, taking on Shane Roller, 10-5. Both men come with a wrestling background. Michael Johnson, from his wrestling background, has really came up a few levels using his striking and developing that aspect of his game, as to where Shane Roller has developed his striking and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We've seen he has one-punch knockout power, as he did over Thiago Tavares. It's his submissions that are more intriguing to me, as we've seen that's been kind of not the strongest suit of Michael Johnson's, is defending those submissions. So I think that we're going to see a pressure, grappling, a takedown, and Shane Roller will effectively get a rear naked choke. And that I'm also going to take in a second round. I think the first round kind of a feeler out, second round rear naked choke. Next fight we're going to, Charles the Bronx Oliveira, who's 14-2, taking on Eric Little Lee Wisely, who's 19-6. Both men are fighting at featherweight now. They both came down from lightweight. They were smaller lightweights. Good to see both of those gentlemen at featherweight. And I think this is a fight that has the potential to be the fight of the night. They both have very good stand-up skills and even better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skills. Oliveira has a 3-inch reach. He has a higher pace to his striking techniques and just to his stand-up game. I think this is going to be the point where picking angles, avoiding taking shots, and using his reach will in turn help him get a decision victory. Or we could even go split decision. I don't see this one going to the ground because both men are so active off their backs. I don't know if either one will be able to attain anything solid from the top position. Decision, maybe split decision, but I'm taking Charles Oliveira. I believe this is going to be the fight of the night. It's going to be a close one. Another featherweight battle is between Cub Swanson, who's 15-5, and George Roop, who's 12-9-1. Swanson, he comes in being up and down. Both of those guys is how you could categorize it. Up and down in their careers. Highlight moments to highlight losses. I think that Swanson just really needs to try to put all aspects of his game together, keep the cockiness and keep some of the stuff off to the side. If he's able to come in more focused and just focused on fighting, he'll be a better fighter. But George Roop seems to be really energized off of his loss against Hatsu Hayoki. Split decision, very close. controversial. Could have went either way. And Roop now, from taking on one of the top 4 guys in the world, has that confidence that he can go in there against anyone. Because of how low Swanson keeps his heads, because of his hands when he's in the stand-up, and because of the elbows that Roop is able to land when a guy is trying to attempt a takedown, I think we see the recipe for another head kick coming. And we're going to go early in this one. I see a first-round head kick knockout coming for George Roop. Now we move to the bantamweight battle. This next fight is Johnny Brutal Bedford, who's 18-10-1, taking on Mitch Cannone, who's 8-1. Bedford's longer, he's taller, he has more experience, and he was training for a fight on this night all the way. Cannone is a somewhat late replacement, replacing Eddie Wineland. He's a submission specialist, 8 victories, 8 subs. His one loss is by the decision. I can see Bedford using his reach, if not trying to get in for takedowns, just to try to use some elbows, bloody his man up on the bottom. Very good grappler versus very good grappler. It's the all-around game. It's the striking advantage. It's the experience advantage. I see Bedford taking a unanimous decision victory in this fight. Now, next fight is between Mike Russo, who's 14-1-1, taking on John Olav Emino, who's 6-2. Russo pushes the pace. He's a heavier set man of these heavyweights. He uses his wrestling, heavy-handed, and just a real grinder. He wants to turn this into a brawl and make this fight dirty. Enemo has a 8 to 9 inch reach advantage, but he doesn't seem to be that effective in his striking at really using that reach advantage. He wants to take this to the ground, be able to slap on a submission. Russo just has a lot of control, stability of feel in his upper body. He'll be able, if it goes to the ground, to stay on top, use his heavy-handedness, and I think he scores a unanimous decision victory in this fight for Mike Russo. The one person in the UFC with a 3-fight win streak that no one knows who he is because he only fights once a year. Next fight that we're talking about is Evan Dunham, who's 12-2, taking on Nick the Carney Lentz, who's 23-4-2. They both started off with a wrestling background. Dunham, I think, has more technique, more use of his hands. Put on a show last time in the octagon, showing his improvement in his striking game against Shamar Bailey. I think we're going to see that again against Nick Lentz. Lentz is very hard to finish, very tenacious, very good grappling, good at submissions, good at trying to keep the fight on, keep the pressure going. I could see Evan Dunham winning this with a decision. I'm hoping to see his striking game keep growing, and they'll be able to end this with the strikes. But Lentz is very hard to submit and very hard to keep control of, very hard to grab and finish when he is hurt. So we're taking Evan Dunham. I'd like to see the TKO, but I'm thinking we're going to see the unanimous decision. Next fight, Damian Maia, 15-3, is taking on Chris Weidman, who's 7-0. If you weren't expecting to hear that and you were thinking it was Michael Bisping, there's been a couple changes at the top of the card. Weidman comes in now on about a 10-day notice to take on Damian Maia, one of the top grapplers in mixed martial arts. Maia, though, has some bad tendencies with his striking. He's still trying to learn it. He's a very ultra-tough guy. The 3 losses in his career are to Mark Munoz, Anderson Silva, and to Nate Marquardt by the knockout. Chris Weidman, yet to lose, took his first UFC fight against Alexio Sakara on late notice, even had a crack rib, was able to win that fight from the decision. Since then, 2 impressive submission victories. I think Chris Weidman's going to come in here, show a better stand-up game, be able to get some takedowns, land some ground and pound, stay out of trouble, and win this fight with a unanimous decision. Damian Maia, his stand-up is not coming along as fast as I would have expected for a guy that's so good at the ground, and he has some technical errors. I think that Weidman's going to be able to find those, and he's good enough on the ground, Weidman, to not get submitted. So Damian Maia, I think, gets rode out for a unanimous decision loss, and a huge surprise being on such short notice. Co-main event of the night now, Chael Sonnen, 27-11-1, taking on Michael the Count Bisping, 23-3. Sonnen wants to take this fight to the ground. He'll ground and pound it out. Michael Bisping wants to keep this fight standing, use his hands, see if he can score a TKO. Interesting stat is that Michael Bisping has won all of his fights from the TKO or the decision. Doesn't really go for the submissions. Chael Sonnen, to be impressive in this fight, really needs to go for another submission like he was able to do against Brian Stann. But I realistically look at this and say he's going to achieve the takedowns, he's going to get the ground and pound, and Chael Sonnen will win a unanimous decision victory. Now we're up to the main event of the night. Sugar Rashad Evans, 21-1-1 versus Phil Davis, who's 9-0. This fight is, again, two guys that primarily started off as wrestlers. Now they're mixed martial artists. Phil Davis is trying to improve his striking, his grappling from his youngness and evolve that game up. Is he the next phenom? Rashad Evans has been chasing a title fight for, it seems like, ever now. Is this his moment? Does he achieve it? There's some questions about both guys' chins. I'd have to say, out of submissions, just from what we've seen, that the more complete submission game is owned by Phil Davis. The more complete striking game is owned by Rashad Evans. We'll see who the better wrestler is. I think that Rashad Evans is able to end this fight, though, in the 4th round due to strikes. I'm going with Rashad Evans, TKO in the 4th round. We'll go back through those predictions one more time for you. Chris Camozzi with a submission, either the key lock or the armbar. Joey Beltran with the TKO. Shane Roller with the rear naked choke. Charles Oliveira with the decision, split decision. George Roop, a 1st round TKO from a head kick. Johnny Bedford will take the decision. Mike Russo with a decision. I think Evan Dunham's going to get a decision too. Chris Weidman with the decision. That will be a grappling match. Chael Sonnen with the decision. And Rashad Evans, I'm taking a 4th round TKO. This has been Cage Minds predictions for UFC on Fox 2. Uncage the warrior within yourself. Thanks for watching. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook. Have a good night.